Good evening. I'll call this meeting of the Housing Authority of the City of Salem for Monday, December 7th, 2020 to order. If the recorder will please call the roll.
Ward 1, Guest Councilor Stapleton.
Here.
Commissioner Anderson.
Present.
Commissioner Nanke.
Here.
Commissioner Leung is absent. Commissioner Osick.
Here.
Chair Hoy.
Here.
Commissioner Nordyke.
Here.
Commissioner Lewis.
Here.
Thank you. And if you'll join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Commissioner Lewis, any additions or deletions to the agenda?
No.
Thank you. And I see nobody has signed up for public comment. Commissioner Lewis, the consent calendar, please.
I move passage of the consent calendar.
Second.
Moved by Commissioner Lewis, seconded by Commissioner Nanke. Commissioner Lewis?
Yes, we have three things on the consent calendar. The first is the minutes from the November 23rd Housing Authority meeting. And then there are two resolutions on the consent calendar. The first is an application for grant funding for up to $150,000 from the Aspen Institute grant for the Policy Acceleration Partnership. And this is to support the Family Self-Sufficiency Program here in Salem. The second under resolutions is the application for an operational loan for up to $10,000 from Oregon Housing and Community Services for Parkway Apartments. And that's it.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Seeing none, will the recorder please call the roll?
Commissioner Anderson.
Aye.
Commissioner Nanke.
Aye.
Commissioner Leung is absent. Commissioner Osick.
Aye.
Chair Hoy.
Aye.
Commissioner Nordyke.
Aye.
And Commissioner Lewis.
Aye.
Thank you. Passes unanimously. And we now have a public hearing at the Housing Authority. So I will open the public hearing and ask the recorder to read the announcement.
The Housing Authority of the City of Salem will now conduct a public hearing to receive testimony regarding an exemption from competitive bidding process and authorization of an alternate contracting method for the Sequoia Crossings Affordable Housing Project. The public hearing will begin with a staff presentation, and individuals testifying are limited to 3 minutes.
Thank you. Ms. Utes, are you going to be the presenter?
I am.
Great, you're up. Thank you.
Just confirming you can see the presentation on the screen?
Yes.
Great. So tonight's presentation is regarding Sequoia Crossings, and it's a request for alternative contracting under ORS 279Z.335 for construction manager and general contractor. So Sequoia Crossings is a project will provide affordable housing and support to our most vulnerable and chronically homeless neighbors in Mary and Polk counties. You've previously heard about Sequoia Crossings as a part of the application process that we did for the Oregon Housing and Community Services Permanent Supportive Housing Institute, in which the Housing Authority has been participating in. We anticipate the project will consist of approximately 77 units and will serve single adults, couples, small families with a mix of studio, 1-bedroom and 2-bedroom apartments. This site will also include permanent supportive housing with a common area and a large community open space. The project location is at 3120 Broadway Street Northeast. It's ideally situated for affordable housing and is a former public housing authority site of the housing authorities. It's close to a grocery store, bank, bus line, and all within walking distance. This will be Salem's second permanent supportive housing project for the Housing Authority. And as previously stated, this is the former location of Orchard Village, which is a public housing authority small project of 26 units that was formerly demolished over a decade ago, and the site currently sits vacant as a field. It is located close to our Parkway Village apartments, and as you can see by the map, conveniently located to Fred Meyer's, the bus line, and several other amenities right nearby within walking distance. So the construction manager general contractor process and why this works for the Housing Authority. We do have several former projects that we have done, such as the RAD, Robert Lindsay Tower, Parkway East, and Parkway West. And currently under our RAD rental assistance demonstration for our 4 public housing authority sites have all gone under the construction manager general contractor. It offers a team approach with 3 components: is the owner, designer, and architect, and a 2-phase contract with the general contractor. So the first phase 1 is a construction management consulting contract to help with the design concept. And the second phase is a general contracting to build the project out. There's pros to this situation with a maximum owner control over design and construction. It's highly predictable in a collaborative team environment. Most flexible in delivery process with respect to cost control and change order management. We know the cost pressures early on, collaborate on our scope and risk assumptions as a team, which helps us reduce the financing gap early on for the projects to be successful. So the in-depth discussion involves developing a common understanding of what the project is, setting up project team expectations, establishing a baseline and performance metrics, the contractor selection process and what happens in pre-construction, as well as guaranteed maximum price. The approval process includes a local contract review board approval for project delivery under ORS 279C.335, a request for proposal process for experience qualifications and fee determination approvals. A project review committee will review the RFPs in response, and an interview and selection process. We approximately believe this will take approximately 4 months. The selection process is open to all contractors. It's a request of their qualifications, which is very important to the Housing Authority, since how these are very complex projects with layering of funding and resources and timelines that are on demand for being met. Fee for general conditions and a contract award. As noted, the nature of our work, the requested exemption is unlikely to encourage favoritism in awarding of public improvement contracts or substantially diminish competition for public improvement. And the nature of the work required for this class exemption is very specialized due to the layering of tax credit financing with a combination of state and federal funds. The RFP process will allow competition for selection of the CMGC for construction of the project. And what happens in pre-construction is prepare a detailed plan and schedule, which is imperative for lease-up processes once the units are turned over. Prepare estimates and establish targeted GMP, track and monitor budget and provide value engineering options, which has been proven successful in previous projects. They assist with providing us with constructability reviews through Design Assist, and we have seen this as well on Yaquina Hall as being very important to ensure that what we're providing is constructible. Market the project to local subs and suppliers, and develop underrepresented business outreach program in which we do often work with the CMGCs to also encourage hiring of and marketing to our actual tenants that reside in our housing authority units. Ensuring risk items managed and mitigated proactively, and early work amendments to accelerate schedule. And assemble to the GMP not to exceed a price at 50% of the design. The guaranteed maximum price is the plan, the work, pre-bid constructability and analysis, market the opportunities and sub-procurement, local and underrepresented, local outreach to subcontractors and trades, and takes bids, competitive bidding of sub-packages. They add it up and present this to the owner to execute an amendment at 50% CD level documents. And I understand that you can ask questions after public comment.
Right. We do have one person signed up. So if that concludes your presentation, I'll ask you to unshare for a few moments and we'll go to the public comment and then we'll come back for questions.
Chair Hoy, we did have one person signed up, but they have not joined the meeting and we have no other people signed up. So there won't be any persons testifying.
All right. So we will go directly to. I've been talking the whole time on mute, so that's perfect. So with nobody signed up, we will go directly to questions of staff then. Are there any questions for staff? I see no questions. Excellent presentation, Ms. Utes. I know that we've used this process on other projects with the city and the Housing Authority. It's been quite successful. I think it's in the public's best interest to do so. So I think that's great. So we will close the hearing and I need a motion. Commissioner Lewis, could I impose upon you for a motion?
Sure. I move staff recommendation.
Second.
So moved by Commissioner Lewis, second by Commissioner Nanke. Any further discussion? Commissioner Anderson.
Thank you. I just want to say to Ms. Utes, keep up the good work. I'd love to see you bring back more projects of this nature and achieves one of our prime goals in the council. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Amen.
Agreed. Any other discussion? Recorder will please call the roll, please.
Commissioner Leung is absent. Commissioner Osick.
Aye.
Commissioner Nanke.
Aye.
Chair Hoy.
Aye.
Commissioner Nordyke.
Aye.
Commissioner Lewis.
Aye.
Commissioner Anderson.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously. Thank you. There are no special orders of business, so we're under information reports. We have a program management report. Ms. Utes, did you have any comments you wanted to start with?
Sure. So in the program management report, I wanted to make sure that under the business profile section, that it is noted that the Salem Housing Authority will be closing multiple waiting lists, and that has been broadcasted on various social media, as well as our website and in the Statesman Journal in various locations upcoming. But that's important information to note, as I'm sure that will bring some comment or concern. But we also want to make an impact in people's lives and not set them up to believe that they're immediately going to be placed off of a waiting list that may take anywhere from 3 to 5 years at its current rate that it's growing. The Housing Authority also has a requirement to purge those waiting lists on a regular basis. And when you have several thousand applicants on those waiting lists at any given time, that's a huge expense to the Housing Authority to continually purge the waiting list, and when we can hopefully reopen these when we have available units to help the individuals that are in the need in the moment, and do it off a lottery draw system, which is what more housing authorities are going to across the country. So just wanted to ensure that. And then we reshaped the HRAP statistics chart for you, and hope that that's a better design in understanding and reviewing who's been enrolled and who's being served and the total number of individuals. With that said, we're just continuing to go along, and wanted to let everybody know we're gearing up for Shop with a Cop. And even though we're on a modified way, we will still be serving about 250 children this year.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. Commissioner Anderson.
Thank you. Thanks for your report, Ms. Utes. I have a question about the NED vouchers. I'm looking at the voucher report when you talk about lease-ups, voucher lease-ups, attachment 2 of your report. Everything is in the high 90s or 100%, but the mainstream NED, the vouchers are only 21%. And I'm wondering if you could tell us what that is. and then give us a little discussion of that. And then I do have another question after you're done with that response. Thanks.
Absolutely. So the NED vouchers are non-elderly disabled mainstream vouchers, which the Housing Authority was awarded this year. In part of the requirement of that process, we had to go through every single applicant on the Section 8 waiting list to see if they would qualify as one of those non-elderly disabled individuals that meets that criteria before we could open this process up to our community partners to make referrals. So that is why the length and delay in getting those leased up, but those are open to the community partners for referrals. We do have 21 placed. We have another 25 out there with vouchers looking. As everybody knows, the market right now is very difficult to find housing. So that is also a part of the process and the delay, but we're certainly leasing those as quickly as we can.
Thank you very much. My other question relates to something we passed on the consent calendar, which is the application for a grant from the Aspen Institute. And I wondered if it sounds like another terrific project. I wonder if you could just speak briefly about it, because it seems to me it's about another side of the same coin of housing, but you also need to get people jobs and education, and that seems what this is doing. So I'd love to hear you speak briefly about that too.
Sure.
Thanks.
So we're very excited to put our application, if approved, into the Aspen Institute. Our family self-sufficiency program has been growing tremendously and been very, very successful, even during these COVID-19 times of us using more social media or tools on the web to try to connect with individuals. We've actually enrolled more during this COVID-19 time than in the past. And that really is due to the marketing of the wonderful case managers in that department that have come up with very creative ways, coming up with their own channels for educational purposes and having classes online on a regular basis and not losing that connection that they have with the clients that they're serving. And for individuals that don't know about Family Self-Sufficiency Program, this is a voluntary program for people who reside into our public housing or Section 8 program. And they come up with a 5-year goal plan and meet quarterly with a case manager to ensure they're on track to those goals. And at the end of the 5 years, any increases in their rent go into an escrow in which they in turn can use for purposes such as purchasing a home or paying off student loans or otherwise debt that has come in line with them becoming self-sufficient into their future. The Aspen grant program actually came out of a survey that the case managers did with the clients they're serving, and 68% of them want to continue on with that secondary post education, getting their GED, but there was several barriers that wasn't being met for them to make that happen. And so the case management team then sought out grants that could help effectively get these individuals the need that to remove that barrier and keep their education process going along to make them more self-sufficient.
Great, thank you. Are there any other questions for Ms. Utz? All right, thank you for the excellent work. It's very exciting.
Thank you.
Seeing no further business before the Housing Authority, we are adjourned.
Well, good evening. I'm going to call this meeting of the Salem City Council for December 7th to order. If the recorder would please call the roll.
Ward 1, Guest Councilor Stapleton.
Here.
Councilor Anderson.
Likewise.
Councilor Nanke.
Here.
Councilor Leung's absent. Councilor Osick.
Here.
Councilor Hoy.
Here.
Councilor Nordyke.
Happy holidays.
Councilor Lewis.
Here.
Mayor Bennett.
Here. Thank you. Councilor Hoy, any additions?
Yes, we have item 6.A, notice of appeal received. The applicant
Alrighty.
appealed the planning administrative decision to divide approximately 0.35 acres into 2 parcels.
Okay. Very good. Let's have council comments. Yes, Councilor Hoy.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Today is December 7th. It's a day that lives in infamy. And it's a day where we recognize the ultimate sacrifice made by so many in service to and protection of our country. A day when the greatest generation was called upon to defend our flag, to maintain our ideals and way of life. And for those sacrifices, I am forever grateful. It's unfortunate that today is also sullied by another group of not so great Americans, a group that has decided to single out and attempt to harass and intimidate public employees and their neighbors, whose only offense is doing their jobs, keeping our workplaces safe for employees and patrons. These public employees do not set policy, they carry it out. They answered the call to public service, and they diligently go about their duties with selflessness and without political agenda. If these groups who have taken to our neighborhoods and attempt to harass and intimidate had the first clue about what our flag that they so cowardly stand behind truly stands for, they would honor those public servants for doing their best in this difficult pandemic, knowing that their actions will cause hardship, but knowing their duty is to implement the public policy for the greater good. If these groups who are not proud at all don't like the policy or don't like the decisions that are being made, they should work to elect people who will carry out their idea of what's best for Oregon. That's what true patriotism is, working within our democratic processes and traditions to bring to reality a shared vision, not trying to intimidate and bully your way through life by taking weapons of war into our neighborhoods, marching through our parks, and pretending to love America when you don't have the first clue what America is about. These groups are trying to use one amendment of the Constitution to nullify other parts of the Constitution through the use of firearms in the furtherance of their own white supremacy agenda, and it's got to stop. None of this is welcome here in Salem. None of it. I understand.
Thank you.
I'm not quite done.
Oh, I'm sorry. You took a long breath there, my friend.
I did. I understand that this pandemic is taking people and business down. I get it, and I hate it. But that's what we have to deal with. If you want to be a true patriot, wear your mask, keep yourself socially distanced, and wash your hands regularly. Stay home unless you need to go out. Until we all do these small sacrifices for a period of time, we will never get back to life as we once knew it. You're being asked not to go to the gym for the betterment of everyone. Other generations have been asked to give up their lives and loved ones for the betterment of everyone. Is it really too much to ask? Thank you.
Okay. Councilor Anderson?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And I fully agree with what Councilor Hoy has said. And we've had these kind of conversations at various past council meetings, and we need to continue them until a change is made. I have to say that my concern is what Councilor Hoy is talking about, but also it's my ward. In Ward 2 is by the state capitol. It goes to the State Street there, right next to the state capitol. Bush's Pasture Park is there. People are walking through my ward to get to the governor's house, which is in Ward 7 and Councilor Nordike's ward. And the two of us and I talked about this a bit, and we are both lawyers. We don't play them on TV. We really are lawyers, and we understand the First Amendment, the Second Amendment, and that's what Councilor Hoy was referring to. Not all these people do, but we understand that you have a right to bear arms, which is, let's just say you have that right. You have a right to free speech, but not when it interferes with other people's rights. And we see that in the park. We see that all the time with the white supremacist people who are armed there and who often are drinking or drunk. So it seems to me and Councilor Nordike that perhaps being drunk and drinking in parks has nothing to do with the Second Amendment. It has nothing to do with the First Amendment. So it sure seems to me that our police department, and welcome Police Chief Womack, you know, we ought to look at this. I also will point out that Scan Neighborhood has sent many letters about this issue and concern. And we got another one yesterday from Mr. Shepke of an officer of Scan. You know, it's just an issue that we've got to look at. We have to take, you know, the more we don't take any kind of enforcement action, the more we're encouraging more of the same. And I understand the concern with the First Amendment and the concern to de-escalate stuff, but man, somebody's drinking in the park. That's a pretty easy decision to make. So I know Chief Womack is going to be, he's jumping in with both feet. And this is an issue that the police department in conjunction with the city manager and the council is really going to have to look at. So thanks.
Thank you. Councilor Nordijk.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to echo and voice my full support for the comments made by my peers, Councilor Hoy and Councilor Anderson. You know, as the city that is the capital for the state of Oregon, we will always have protests from across political persuasions coming to our town. People will always flock to the state capitol to make their voices heard. And anyone who wants to share their political views by protest can do so peacefully and lawfully. And the Capitol Mall is that place. And protests belong at the Capitol. They do not belong in our neighborhoods. And you can imagine the amount of emails that I've received and other communications from my neighbors who are not accustomed to having protesters march through their streets. Our neighborhoods are for our children and our families. Our neighborhoods are places of peace. They're a place of respite. They are one of the only places where people can go in a year where the world has seemingly shrunk. But I have heard far too many concerns from people, from families, from their children, who feel unsafe in their own neighborhoods, who do not feel that they can share the sidewalks or public parks with individuals screaming four-letter words within earshot of children, people who are brandishing weapons in front of children, people drinking in public, people flouting our traffic laws and even covering their license plates. And so the message that I have for my neighbors is that we want you to follow the same laws that we do. And we want enforcement. I appreciate the fact that some citations have been issued to those who have been not following the laws in the course and scope of protesting. And that is all that my neighbors want. They want laws on the books, whether it be drinking in the park, or noise levels in private neighborhoods. They would like to see those rules applied. And it really doesn't matter the political persuasion of the protester. That's beside the point. But when people leave the Capitol and decide that it's time to now make a scene in front of the governor's mansion, the impact that it has had on this community has been to frighten them and to intimidate them into not even leaving their homes. And there has to be a balance moving forward. Now, my neighbors have also asked me, why can't we just require permits? Well, we have statewide orders in effect that prohibit large gatherings. I cannot see how we could even have a permitting process that would condone large gatherings when nobody in the state is supposed to have a large gathering. So that is one of the special challenges of 2020. It's that it's not just protests, it's not just wildfires, it's also a pandemic and all of the financial underpinnings that have come with it. If there was an obvious solution, you can bet I would already be motioning council for how to solve it. But there isn't. And every single neighbor I know understands the concept of peaceful protests. Every single one of them does. Not one neighbor of mine, regardless of their own political ideology, is asking for special treatment or for one group to be treated worse than another. This is about any protester needs to know the same set of ground rules. And I think we should articulate a clear set of ground rules. If you want to protest in our city, these are our ground rules to ensure that we have a peaceful demonstration for your safety, for the counter-protest safety, for the safety of our law enforcement officers. What I'm asking for are common sense answers to complex problems. And I look forward to opportunities to work with our law enforcement, our city manager, and my colleagues on council, because I know that this is not an easy solution. And this isn't a simple process of just denying a permit, because we can't even have permits in this day and age. But I do ask that anyone who comes to the city, regardless of political persuasion, to obey the same laws that we do. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, Mr. Powers.
Thank you, Mayor Bennett. Given the comments this evening, I do want to share with council and the public that there was a demonstration Friday night with an estimated 70 to 80 people that marched from the Capitol Mall area to the new police station and vandalized the police station. There were paint guns involved. Fortunately, there was no more serious physical damage to individuals or to our building. So thank you, councilors, for sharing the feedback regarding the city's response to demonstrations and protests, and the occurrence of demonstrations and marches is certainly not limited to one park or one part of the city. And we will certainly take under consideration the comments this evening and look forward to working with counselors on how to really work through this challenging time. And to help us with that, it is my pleasure to introduce Chief Trevor Womack. Mr. Womack was sworn in, was administered the oath of office by Municipal Court Judge Aiken this morning. So he is now our Chief of Police, Salem's Chief of Police, and I've asked Chief Womack to say a few comments this evening. So if I may, thank you.
Thank you. Chief, welcome aboard.
Thank you, City Manager and Mayor and Councilors. Trevor Womack, Chief of Police. I'm very happy to be here, my first day. I'll be brief, but I want to thank all of you and the community at large for placing your trust and confidence in me to serve as your police chief. I'm excited about that. I recognize the weight of that responsibility. I take that very seriously. And I can promise you and the community that I'll work very hard with my team here at the Salem Police Department to make sure we understand the desires and needs and demands of our community as far as public safety and the police department, and work hard to continually improve and provide that level of service that the community demands and deserves. We're going to do that, I believe, by building upon the foundation that's already been laid here within the police department, the legacy of Chief Moore and much of the good work that's already been done, and continue to move forward and build upon that. So I'm excited to be here. It's been an amazing first day, and I'm happy to be here with all of you tonight. And I'm looking forward to working on some of these challenging issues that are being discussed right now. I really am. Thank you very much.
We'll look forward to working with you on them. So thank you. Thank you very much. Really glad you're here.
And if I may, Mayor Bennett, one other quick item.
Yes.
A festive update for you. I thought you might mention the lighting of our holiday tree that has been done by the mayor. Unfortunately, the ceremony, and I apologize, Mayor, if I'm stealing your thunder.
That's okay.
The tree lighting had to be a virtual event this year. I do, though, want to share with council and the public that our City Public Works Department, again, has expanded the holiday lighting at the Riverfront Park to include additional lighting, some additional fun features for kids and families. So I would recommend that everyone go down to Riverfront Park and check out the lighting, check out the progress on our new restroom, and also the progress on the Jerry Frank Rotary Amphitheater. And of course, when you do visit our park, please wear a mask and maintain 6 feet of separation. Thank you.
Yeah, Mr. Manager, I want to second that. It was really a lot of fun filming that. As you'll see, I appear to be the only character in this drama, but it was fun lighting the Christmas tree this year. But I'll tell you, it was really lonely after the way we've done it traditionally with a major community event. And I hope next year we can do it that way again. I also had a chance to visit the Jerry Frank Amphitheater, and it is an amazing thing. If you haven't been down there, to go down and take a look at how far along that's, you will not recognize that 4 acres we bought. And it's really changing completely. And then I think we all are very excited that we will finally, after all these years, have restrooms at the north end of that park. And they're looking very good. I'm looking forward to them being lit next year, Santa on top, the whole shebang. So people can just see what a spectacular job has been done, finally getting those restrooms in place. Really pleased. Okay, can we move on then? Okay. I have a proclamation. I'll be seconding Councilor Hoy's comments. Whereas December 7th, 1941 marks a somber day in United States history, and whereas we remember the more than 2,400 Americans who lost their lives on that day, including 1,102 sailors permanently entombed in the USS Arizona. And whereas in a speech the following day to joint session of Congress, President Franklin Delano Roosevelt declared December 7th, 1941 as a day that will live in infamy. And whereas the events of that tragic day on the Hawaiian island of Oahu at Pearl Harbor propelled America into World War II and gave the nation a resolve that sustained the nation to victory. And whereas because of that victory for democracy and the sacrifices and suffering endured to secure it, the United States has come to know our enemies of then as allies today. And now, therefore, I, Chuck Bennett, Mayor of the City of Salem, do hereby proclaim December 7th, 2020 as Pearl Harbor Remembrance Day and encourage the community to reflect on the historic events that occurred 79 years ago and pay tribute to those whose lives were lost. Dated this 7th day of December, 2020. And got a couple of presentations I'd like to make. First is the Special Mayor's Award to Marion County. I want to recognize a group of people who gave it their all during an incredibly difficult time here in the community. During the recent Beachy Creek and Lions Head fires, Marion County, it caught me off guard, Marion County staff, along with several of its partnering agencies, jumped into action and very quickly created a wildlife shelter and resource center at the Oregon State Fairgrounds. An animal and livestock care and boarding facility was set up at the fairgrounds as well. Many people up the canyon had to not only evacuate their homes, but needed to very quickly load up and transport some of their most precious possessions, their pets and livestock. It was an almost overwhelming situation for everyone, but Marion County staff and others did everything in their power to ensure the safety and well-being of all who came to the fairgrounds in search of a place to come together and wait out what evolved into a major disaster for this area. Many lost their homes and possessions, but they still had each other and their animals thanks to the coordination set forth by Marion County. The dedication, compassion, and bravery exhibited by all was something that I won't soon forget. As someone who lost 2 homes up the canyon, I fully understand the devastation. For all of this and the tremendous work that I have no doubt happened behind the scenes, I would like to express my sincere thanks and appreciation to you all for your immediate and compassionate support of the residents and animals of the Santiam Canyon during the wildfire crisis. Your dedication and commitment are commendable, and we at the City of Salem are grateful for your selfless efforts. have a special recognition award for Salem fire personnel. Next, we want to recognize a group of Salem's finest responders. On Monday, September 7th at approximately 9:30 p.m., the Salem Fire Department received a mutual aid request for a wildland fire burning near the community of Gates. A task force of 2 Type 1 engines, 2 Type 6 brush trucks, and 2 command vehicles and 17 total personnel were mobilized. As crews arrived at the fire station in Gates, they encountered a rapidly advancing fire. High winds and several structures were on fire. The decision was quickly made that the focus would be on evacuation and rescue. The next 20 hours can only be described as a blur. Salem fire personnel aided in the evacuation of hundreds of people from the communities of Lyons, Mahama, Mill City, Gates, and Drake's Crossing, Scotts Mills, and the Little North Fork. In addition, crews prevented the loss of dozens of homes and other structures throughout the Santiam Canyon. Deputy Chief Godfrey assumed and established command at Gates Fire Station. About 3 hours later, DC Godfrey moved to Staten Fire Station after Police and Fire unified command with Salem, with Marion County Sheriff's Office, Lynn County Sheriff's Office, and Oregon State Police. Evacuation areas were increased to Cascade Highway and Staten. Battalion Chief Vonderay assumed Operations Section Chief for the incident, managing the 5 task forces that were assigned during the fire. 4 of them were mutual aid, and 1 was an Oregon State Fire Marshal conflagration resource. Chief Vonderay's sole objective was, as we got reports of people trapped, deploying task forces to rescue them. Captain Reich was assigned Southeast Branch. The city of Gates was broken up into quarters to manage the resources and evacuations. As those areas were completed, they leapfrogged resources west until they had evacuated to Cascade Highway and Staten to include the cities of Gates, Mill City, Mahama, Lyons, Elkhorn, Drake's Crossing, and Scotts Mills. Brass 1 Engine 14 and Engine 15 worked in the Southeast Branch and Southwest Branch, evacuating and rescuing people. While all of these first responders would say they were just doing their job, it's clear that their efforts were nothing short of heroic. The city of Salem is proud of your selfless service to others. Thank you. And finally, the Willard C. Marshall Special Award goes to Salem Health. Our last 2020 Volunteer Recognition Award is the Willard C. Marshall Special Resident Award, which was established at the bequest of the estate of Willard Marshall, who was the mayor of Salem from 1963 to 1965. This year, it's a great honor to recognize Salem Health for its incredible efforts on behalf of the community during the COVID-19 pandemic. Salem Health began preparing for COVID-19 late in 2019 as staff saw the disease begin to emerge. When COVID-19 was first identified in the United States in early 2020, Salem Health set up an incident command team that actively managed the crisis, allowing a nimble response as circumstances changed and until new science was developed. The incident command team worked 12 to 15 hours a day for several weeks. They tracked patient census and available beds, prepared for potential patient surges, monitored PPE availability and usage, and planned for worst-case scenarios. Early on, Salem Health canceled elective surgeries to preserve PPE and bed space. The hospital worked with local companies and community members to manufacture additional PPE. That's personal protective equipment. Salem Health also set up strict screening and masking protocols for staff and visitors at their facilities. Staff set up respiratory clinics to triage systemic patients. It led a regular call with community medical providers to exchange information and ideas. Salem Health has continued to follow the latest scientific findings to protect us and treat us as we face COVID-19. Most importantly, Salem Health employees showed up every day to care for many COVID-19 patients despite the risks of a new and unknown disease. They demonstrated courage and selflessness that we can all aspire to. COVID-19 has proven that Salem is home to brave, competent, and compassionate medical professionals. Thank you, Salem Health, for your commitment to our community. Okay. Thank you for your attention on those. These are folks that have done some really special things this past year. I have no one signed up for public comment on agenda items, so we'll move to the consent calendar. Councillor Hoy.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I move approval of the consent calendar with the following exceptions. Item 3.2A, 3.2B, and 3.3A pulled by Councillor Anderson. And item 3.3D will have a no vote registered from Councillor Nanke.
Very good. Want to tell us who's going to second this? Nanke?
Second.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor, that leaves us with item 3.1A, the November 23rd, 2020 draft city council minutes. Item 3.3B, a purchase and sale agreement with Joe R. and Susan J. Schumacher for acquisition of property necessary for the expansion of Guerin Island Water Treatment Facility Access Road. Item 3.3C, application for project funding through ODOT of Transportation of All Roads Transportation Safety Program Arts. That's a mouthful. And that concludes the consent calendar. Oh, I'm sorry. I think I skipped a page. Nope, that concludes the consent calendar.
We're recognizing that Nanke voted no on 3.3D.
Correct.
Okay. Very good. All right, councilors, any discussion? Okay, all in favor will answer yes when the recorder calls your name.
Councillor Ossick,
Aye.
Councillor Hoy,
Aye.
Councillor Nordyke,
Aye.
Councillor Lewis,
Aye.
Councillor Anderson,
Yes.
Councillor Nanke.
I was going to say the same thing. Nobody's following instructions. Yes.
All right. Councillor Leung is absent. Mayor Bennett.
Yes. Right, motion passes. Thank you.
She muted me. I wasn't going to follow her instructions tonight.
Okay, we've got a couple of public hearings. So I'm going to open the first public hearing and have the recorder read the announcement.
The City Council will now conduct a public hearing for the purpose of receiving public testimony regarding fiscal year 2021 Supplemental Budget 3 for additional expense and revenue in the Community Renewal Fund. The hearing will begin with a staff presentation and individuals testifying are limited to 3 minutes.
Who's gonna, there it is, Josh.
Good evening, Mayor and City Councilors. I'm Josh Eggleston, the city's budget officer. No formal presentation for you this evening, but for your consideration this evening, we have Supplemental Budget 3 to receive and expend additional CDBG funds. A public hearing is required due to the amount being greater than 10% of the adopted budget for this fund. I'm happy to answer any questions after any public comment. Thank you.
There is no public signed up, so if you have any questions, go ahead and. Yes, Councillor Nordyke.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Josh, as I understand it from reading this, it says that at least 70% of the provided funding must be expended for activities that benefit low and moderate income persons by providing housing, a permanent job, a public service, or to address an urgent COVID-19 need for which there is no other funding source. At this early juncture, do we have any idea for what we might use this funds if council ultimately decides to approve it?
Thank you. I'll defer to Director Rutherford.
Good evening, Kristen Rutherford, Urban Development Director. Some of these funds have already come to City Council for approval back when we first had noticed that they were flowing to us in the June timeframe, and we set up a program to grant out these funds for COVID relief. We've had additional funds that are coming to the city that we have not yet granted out, but based on the previous allocations, those funds went to small business assistance and for rental housing assistance and mortgage relief assistance. And that's been granted out to other subrecipients to get those out to the individuals who are renting homes or business owners. So we would be looking at a similar allocation proposal. We will be going through our normal grant cycle with our normal entitlement funds as we head into the new year. I anticipate that we will continue to see a growing demand for rental assistance funds. That hasn't, a lot of our funds for those programs have not gone out to individuals yet because there have been other funds in the region that Community Action Agency and other nonprofits have received that had kind of shorter shelf lives than our funds and had to get out the door faster. But we are anticipating when the eviction moratorium ends, we will start seeing a significant demand for rental assistance funds.
So Ms. Rutherford, you are coordinating. I'm really impressed with the amount of coordination you're describing in the use of these funds in conjunction with all of the other funds. There seems to be a substantial amount moving nationally through the state, through the county, as well as some coming to us and some of our own going in. So this is all being somewhat coordinated. Do I understand that correctly?
We are working to try to coordinate this.
Okay.
You know, when all the funds initially started flowing out, there were so many sources and funds going to so many different entities that I think at the beginning it was a bit overwhelming for all of us.
Yeah.
We quickly began those conversations with the Housing Authority, with Community Action, with our other nonprofits in the community to find out, you know, what the different timelines were for funds coming through the state to other agencies. You know, all these different pots of money have little different rules and different timelines. And as they come out, even in different cycles, we've noticed the CDBG funds that the state has released or other CARES Act funds that the state has released, they all come out with the rules being a little bit different each time.
Yeah.
Yes, it has taken a great deal of coordination to try to get these out as effectively as we can.
Will there ever be an accounting of how all these, sort of what happened here when all of this, when the dust settles on, if it ever does, on COVID and the impact on our economy and all the rest of it, to really understand if we ever face something like this again, what should we have in place to help us work through this rationally and make sure we're targeting into the right
you know, I know that
pockets.
With our funds and with all of these funds, there are reporting and monitoring requirements that go along with them that I would hope a year down the road, 2 years down the road, after these have been out, that then when there's some breathing room, we can go back and look at all that data and see how they were used. And I think we're already seeing reports of that in the news from the PPE funds and some of the earliest funds that got out the door, that we're seeing that some of these funds could have been allocated a bit more effectively than they were.
Yeah, well, I appreciate that. I think that will be one of the things we'll probably want to, if I understood Councilor Nordike's question too, is as we go into our budget process, I think to the extent you can share with us lessons learned or the kind of fine tuning that needs to be done, I think that'd be really helpful. I think the public would like to know kind of what happened. Where'd all that money go and how did it do what it needed to do, given some of the stories of pain that we're really hearing about, the evictions, closing businesses, you know, all of those different, lack of childcare, the list kind of goes on, housing availability, that kind of stuff. I think it would just be really helpful as you have available information that evaluates this, it would be really helpful to have.
Okay.
Sure, and I just had a follow-up. Yeah, what I was going to also add to my remarks is that I know that we've already made some grant funding available to small businesses and that they have promptly applied for all that funding and then some. So when I see that there may be some more money coming, I'm definitely interested to know, are we continuing to provide that eviction assistance or just housing assistance in general? And are we continuing to set aside some of those funds for small businesses too? Because I know that those have been a real lifeline, and the businesses that I've talked to have made clear just how important any support they can get during this time frame. So I appreciate that we've already had multiple rounds of small business grants, and I hope that we will continue to do so. And I think it's great that you're coordinating as best you can with these other agencies, because yeah, a lot of this money has a built-in expiration date. You can only use it for a certain amount, for a certain person or a certain type of person, a certain kind of entity. It boggles the mind. But it sounds to me like we're doing everything we can to make the most out of all the different pots of money, as you said, to reach folks who've been impacted by COVID. Thank you.
Thank you. And one of the challenges that we have, you hit on a bit there, is that there are a lot of rules and there is a lot to track, because we have to make sure we're not having duplications of benefits. And that is a challenge in working with benefits or with the business community, and with anybody that's receiving any of these benefits, that they can't receive funding from us, that they may have received a prior grant for the same thing. So we have to track everything down to that level as well.
Okay, any further? Okay. Well, let me see if I have any. I'm going to close the hearing then. Councillor Hoy.
I move adoption of resolution number 2020-56 for the Community Renewal Fund, increasing expenditure appropriation authority and revenues in the amount of $860,360.
Second.
Second by Anderson. Any discussion further? Okay, if the recorder would please call a roll.
Councillor Hoy?
Aye.
Councillor Nordyke?
Aye.
Councillor Lewis?
Aye.
Councillor Anderson?
Aye.
Councillor Nanke?
Aye.
Councillor Leung is absent. Councillor Ossick?
Aye.
Mayor Bennett?
Aye. Okay, motion passes. We'll go to our next public hearing then.
The City Council will now conduct a public hearing for the purpose of receiving public testimony regarding Amendment Number 1 to the 2020-2021 Housing and Community Development Annual Action Plan. The hearing will begin with the staff presentation, and individuals testifying are limited to 3 minutes.
Good evening, Mayor Bennett and Council. I'm Shelley Ahinger, Federal Programs Manager, and I have a short presentation in regards to this request for an amendment. The purpose of tonight's public hearing is to provide information to the citizens of Salem, as well as an opportunity for citizens to comment on an amendment to the 2020-2021 Annual Action Plan. The 2020-2021 Annual Action Plan allocates funding to activities such as those that were previously discussed, where we focus on affordable housing, homelessness, and social services. A public notice announcing the proposed plan modification was presented in the Statesman Journal on November the 20th, 2020. In addition, the amendment was posted on the City of Salem's website, and as of this afternoon, we had not received any public comments. Why are we amending the Annual Action Plan? On June the 22nd of this year, Council approved the 2020 Consolidated Plan, Analysis of Impediments to Fair Housing, and the 2020-2021 Annual Action Plan. We submitted those plans to the federal government for review. Prior to their approving the submission, HUD discovered an error in their calculation used to determine community grants throughout the nation. On November the 10th, an email was submitted to the mayor and city officials notifying them of the city formula, the error in the formula. The reduction is very nominal, as you can see, $177 for the home resources and $201 for our CDBG allocation. However, because council took action and approved the previous allocated amount, we have to take action for this amendment. HUD also in that notification provided us direction in regards to aligning the revised amount, which will include executing new certifications. Our next steps is, should council approve tonight's amendment, we will submit tomorrow to HUD the revised amendment, and then the certifications will be sent thereafter. We hope that HUD would have this approved by the 20th of December, and then our projects and programs can be implemented. There will be a report to both the public and council in August of 2021. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone have any questions? Okay. Just a sec, I can't see you all, so I don't know if anyone raised their hand or not.
I'm taking the share off.
But you're coming back, right? Anyone have any questions? Okay, thank you. I'm going to close the hearing then. Councillor Hoy.
I move we approve amendment number 1 to the 2020-2021 Housing and Community Development Annual Action Plans and direct staff to submit the amendment to the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development, attachment 1.
Okay. Nanki, did you second that?
Yeah.
If the recorder would please call a roll.
Councillor Nordyke.
Aye.
Councillor Lewis.
Aye.
Councillor Anderson.
Aye.
Councillor Nanki.
Aye.
Councillor Leung is absent. Councillor Ossick.
Aye.
Councillor Hoy.
Aye.
Mayor Bennett.
Aye, motion passes. Okay, we'll go to special orders of business. Councillor Anderson, 3.2A.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I move that the council adopt resolution number 2020-50, approving property tax exemptions for 8 low-income housing properties owned by nonprofit entities.
Second.
Second by Hoy.
If I may speak a little bit, thank you. This is a theme that we've been going through tonight and past meetings, and I hope we continue to go through it. I'm all in favor of this. I just have a couple comments and questions for, I don't know if it would be, most likely it would be Director Rutherford. These are 8 of them, and I can look at the addresses in section 1, and it appears to me that they're pretty much scattered all over the city, although by my calculations, there's at least 3 of the 8 are in Ward 2, and that's perfectly fine with me. But I think one of the potential goals of housing of this nature should be that it should be dispersed across the whole city, not just in one particular area. And I think it might be helpful, Director Rutherford, if you could speak to where these are. And I'm also thinking that at some point, maybe it would be also helpful to see a map of how these low-income housing areas are dispersed around the city, which is totally appropriate and how they should be.
Well, good evening. So what you're looking at under this resolution is a pretty small component of the affordable housing within the community. This doesn't include any of our housing authority properties. These are nonprofits that own affordable housing in the community. That's a very good recommendation that we bring forward a map when we do this. We can certainly do that. There are, we have affordable housing that is dispersed throughout the city. We tend to have a bit more of it concentrated in the north side of the community than other locations, but we do have it in West Salem, we do have it in South Salem, and in East Salem. And the applications that you see here so we're I think this is our 3rd year of this program. What we haven't really seen yet adding to this program, other than the Cornerstone apartments, is growth in this program. This is something that we certainly share with the community and would love to see more nonprofit housing developers that could take advantage of this program. But to date, it really has just been existing housing owned by nonprofits that have benefited from this program.
Thank you, Director Rutherford. I understand that this is not our housing. This is not the housing the Housing Authority does and other governmental agencies. It's nonprofit private entities. And I think that's something we need to encourage. The city can do all we can, but we need partners in nonprofit agencies, and we do this in a lot of other areas. The city has non-government partners, so I'm pleased to see this, and I would encourage you, and I know you're doing this. Go ahead and cast a broad net here for what you can do.
And I would also just to add to that, Councillor, point out that this is one tool in a toolbox that we continue to add to. We do have tax abatement programs through the Housing Authority for developers that want to enter into management agreements with them and provide a mix of affordable units within their market rate developments. And we've also have the program, pilot program that we've just started out at Jory Apartments. Using urban renewal to also blend affordable units in market rate developments. And that could be used anywhere in the city.
Terrific, thanks.
Kristen, do I understand then what you're saying is these are existing housing units that are now moving into a tax exempt status? Is that right? Or is this some new stuff?
This is existing housing, and these developments have been in this program from the first year that we started this.
Okay, but we're not seeing nonprofits coming into this program with new units for low income population. Do I understand that right?
That's correct. Cornerstone is the newest.
Okay, so we need to kind of talk to our nonprofit partners and see what we need to do. Is that it?
Yes.
No taxes is not enough. Is that what the message is?
We've had this program for about 3 years, and it takes at least that long to develop an affordable housing project.
Do we have folks out there in the process then, any of these nonprofits in the process of planning or doing?
Not that we are working with right now for brand new construction.
Okay.
Dev Northwest and their development is probably the closest to a new nonprofit, but it's more renovation than brand new.
Okay, very good. Tom, yeah.
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Mayor. As I understand it, these are properties that are there that moved into nonprofit status. I'm wondering, are there individual property owners out there who have apartment complexes that might want to become nonprofit in terms of how they do it? And can we encourage that? Because I don't know if, it's a chicken or the egg question. Do they find nonprofits and then they look for housing, or somebody who already has housing wants to transfer into a nonprofit?
I bet there's a lot of landlords think they're in the nonprofit business right now.
Yeah, probably.
Is that who you're talking about, Tom?
Okay. Yeah, these are not entities that have just recently become nonprofits. They're long-term nonprofits.
Okay, anyone else? Okay. The clerk would please call the roll.
Councillor Lewis?
Aye.
Councillor Anderson?
Aye.
Councillor Nakey?
Aye.
Councillor Leung is absent. Councillor Usick?
Aye.
Councillor Hoy?
Aye.
Councillor Nordyke?
Aye.
Mayor Bennett?
Aye, motion passes. 3.2B, Councillor Anderson.
Thank you,
Mr. Mayor.
Whoops, sorry.
I hate to interrupt, but I need to declare an actual conflict of interest for this item, and I'd like to do that at the outset. This is the Broadway Street Improvement Project one, right? 3.2B?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Thank you.
I just would like to declare an actual conflict of interest for agenda item 3.2B because of property owned by my family. So I'll be taking no part in the conversation or the vote. Thank you.
Great. Thank you. Councillor Anderson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I move council adopts resolution 2020-51 through 2020-54 concerning acquiring a right-of-way in the area of Broadway Street from Spruce Street to Salem Parkway Northeast.
Second.
Second by Hoy.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. and I hope, Mr. Fernandez is here. If I've got this right, this is the one where we had a big discussion with about the right turn lane and what we're going to do there. And so I'm just looking at this, and I presume, Director Fernandez, that what we're doing on these corners is ADA sort of improvement stuff. We're buying places so we can have ramps on the instead of curbs on the sidewalks.
That is correct, Councilman.
Okay, great. That's terrific. Good. So thanks for doing that. That's a great project. Thank you.
You're okay?
I'm fine.
Okay, anybody else? Okay, remember, this was controversial.
Okay.
All those in favor will answer aye this time when the recorder calls them.
Counselor Anderson,
Aye.
Counselor Nanki,
And an aye here.
Counselor Leung is absent. Counselor Ossick,
Yes.
Counselor Hoy,
Yes.
Counselor Nordike is abstaining, and let's see, Counselor Lewis
Aye.
and Mayor Bennett.
Aye, motion passes. Okay, 3.3A, Counselor Anderson.
Thank you. I want to say first, Mr. Mayor, that I did pull this, and then Councilor Lewis pulled it, but Councilor Lewis has withdrawn his pull, so I'm stuck with.
I know I've got several cross-outs on this, but it landed with you, so I'm going to let you have the pleasure.
I move we authorize the city manager to execute an IGA with Polk County and any amendments to that IGA in order to provide mobile crisis response team services during the fiscal year 2021.
Very good.
Second.
Counselor Lewis, seconds.
Mr. Mayor, again, this is another common theme that we have been going through in the past several council meetings and past several months and maybe even years, just like the traffic one, just like the other ones we've discussed tonight. But this is mobile response team is something, again, that the city has been doing to take care of people on the street who need help for various reasons. And I'm glad to see we're cooperating with Polk County. And I don't know if Lieutenant Upkees is here, but maybe Chief Womack knows something about this project.
Or the manager.
Yeah.
If I may, Deputy Chief Miller can speak to this program.
Okay, good.
Good evening, councilors, Mayor, Skip Miller, Salem Police Department, Deputy Chief. So this is going on our 5th year of having this arrangement with Polk County. We provide one patrol officer who works with a qualified mental health care provider. And then there is also an equal team on the Polk County side of the deputy and a qualified mental health care provider. Both teams actually will work within the West Salem area, as well as all of Polk County as a whole. It's a very good team concept, and Councilor Anderson, you're absolutely correct. We very much appreciate the partnership and what these teams are able to provide to help keep our community at a place where we can de-escalate situations and help people that are experiencing emotional crisis.
Deputy Chief, do we have one like this or something like this with Marion County as well?
Mayor, we do. We actually have two positions that are equally grant funded. The funding come from the state mental health system, and then it goes into the county, and the county is gracious enough to partner with us. The one that we have with Marion County, the first position probably started about 11 years ago. And then I think 3 years ago or so, we added another position to that. So we actually have two that do the exact same thing in Marion County that Polk County does.
All right. Yes, Councilor Nanki.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And yeah, I was going to say that this has been going on for several years and just wanted to encourage Councilor-elect Stapleton to make contact with the police department and make sure she understands what they're doing. Because you'll see this every year. It comes every year. It's an annual renewal as well. So it's always hard after, one time, two times. Oh, we do this every year. So just kind of give you the uptake on that.
Okay. Very good. Any further discussion? If not, the recorder will please call a roll.
Counselor Naiki.
Aye.
Counselor Leung is absent. Counselor Osick.
Aye.
Counselor Hoy.
Aye.
Counselor Nordike.
Aye.
Counselor Lewis.
Aye.
Counselor Anderson.
Aye.
Mayor Bennett.
Aye, motion passes. Information reports. Anybody want some information on these?
No, we already got it.
Okay. We don't have any ordinances, first or second readings. We have several citizens that would like to address us on issues not on the agenda. So I'll begin with those. Kathy Reens.
Yes, thank you very much for letting me have my say to you guys. And first of all, I live in Paradise Island, and I live in the very far corner up against Cascade Gateway Park, where we have tons and tons of homeless people. We used to have a very safe, secure park, and people were, with the COVID, they were very safe in their homes, but they don't feel safe anymore. We hear gunfire. They cut the fence that Corey put up between us and the homeless camp. They cut through the fence. They walked all the way down to the other end of the park, cut a bicycle lock that was on the deck of somebody's house. 2 locks was on it, and stole the bike. The cost to us having those homeless people is we have to buy new locks all the time because they're cut. We have to get motion lights, and we have to have them installed. We have to get alarm systems, and most of the people here are on fixed incomes. Most of the people, I would say 70%, are widows on very restricted incomes. And there's gunfire. We hear at night, Thanksgiving evening, I called the police because we heard gunfire. And then we also pay taxes for a park that we can't use. I mean, we just can't go over there. People are afraid all the time. There's people that coming in here all the time. There's my neighbor brought some, when she was 19, she brought some garden angels from Germany. Those are gone. She's now 85. Can't get those back. Those are memories of her home. I mean, this has really got to stop. You've got to find some place to put some of these people, even if you put some in different places so that they're split up so we don't have so many. And there's tents just on the other side of the creek. Where are they going to the bathroom? In the creek, in Mill Creek, in the lake. And then the cost to Corey, he put 3 new security cameras up. He's gonna put a rolling gate at the front of the park. He's gonna put a permanent fence that they cut through along the creek. He's had equipment stolen. He's got to buy new locks. He pays for a security patrol that the city should be patrolling. You guys should be paying for the security patrol. And he spends all this time watching the videos from the night before to see if anybody's been prowling around. It's very scary. That's my say. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Corey Poole.
Unmute. Hello. I'm going to be doing a screen share here. Okay. I'd like to thank city staff, especially Courtney Knox, for helping make this possible. Most of the people in this neighborhood are not Zoom capable. Like, this is actually quite a hurdle for folks to use the technology that's required by city council to do this. So I really appreciate you working with us here. All right, here's a slideshow. My name is Corey Poole. I'm chair of the Semka Neighborhood Association and own a business at 3100 Turner Road. The last 6 months have been very difficult for our neighborhood. The level of frustration over the perceived lack of interest from the city addressing the situation in Cascade Gateway Park is increasing by neighbors. We appreciate the minor adjustments that have been made to the park camping policy in an effort to alleviate the crisis situation in the park, but I can tell you the perception on the ground is that nothing has really changed. All these pictures are from today, by the way. If you're missing a bike, I'm pretty sure it might be there. The label of undeveloped areas of parks is offensive to us. These were once beautiful natural areas that hosted a range of wildlife from bald eagle to deer. They are now filled with squalor and human suffering. The conditions in the parks are worse than in many refugee camps. Oh, sorry about that. The city still does not have any notion of the number of people living in the parks, nor their individual needs. There's no patrols going through these camps. From the perspective of the neighbors, it appears the city has completely dropped the ball on this critical issue with little or no regard for the people living near or in the two affected parks. I definitely understand the difficulties in addressing the needs of this population. What I don't understand is the insistence that the city put the entirety of this burden on two neighborhoods adjacent to these parks. These are security people who have stolen from our parks, from our community. The neighbors in the Semka have been suffering massive increases in crime. The perpetrators of this crime are all walking into the surrounding communities from the park, sometimes cutting the fence between Cascade Gateway and then going back to Cascade Gateway, secure in the knowledge that even if we find out who they are, the police will not enter the homeless camp compounds to look for stolen property. These criminals are operating with complete impunity. I had over $4,000 worth of tools stolen from my shop in the last month. The neighbors around Cascade Gateway Park deserve better from you for this issue. We are deeply concerned with the news that council might be extending the camping allowance for another 6 months. I can tell you that we cannot accept such an extension. We have borne this burden for long enough. It is time for council to relieve the parks in favor of other city properties. We in Semka look forward to working with you to find solutions to these problems. We know it is hard, but we also know you, our elected representatives, can find a solution that will be better than the situation that currently exists. Please consider our plight and those who live in the parks as well.
Thank you, Corey.
I'm going to stop sharing my screen.
Okay. Bobby Stark.
Thank you.
Oh, I'm sorry, Tom. Did you have a question for Corey?
Yeah, well, I just have a comment again and thank Corey, but I don't know if there'll be more people from Paradise Island, but.
Yeah, we've got several more.
Okay, well then when we're done with this, I'd love a response from the city manager and other city officials as to.
Well, why don't we have the city manager respond now to Corey's comments about entering the park and entering these camps. Sure. Mr. Manager, what's the deal? What are we doing about these camps in terms of just basic entry, cleanup, law enforcement? What all's going on out there and in West Salem? What's happening?
Certainly, thank you, Mayor, councilors, and certainly, I fully appreciate the unusual circumstances involved with allowing camping in those two parks. We have had large cleanups at both Cascades and Wallace Marine and have removed significant amounts of solid waste. That will continue. We have some of the photos that were shared with you are of the parking area. We have removed vehicles from the parking area. We're going to continue with the garbage pickup. Council has approved recently additional funding for services at the two parks. That work is underway. It is a very challenging situation, no doubt, and we will continue to respond. The police will continue to respond, and we will certainly continue to mitigate undoubtedly the impacts that are on the surrounding properties.
Mr. Manager, are we seeing camping in other city parks? I thought one of the things Corey mentioned was a question about dispersal. Are we seeing a dispersal of homeless folks in terms of camping?
We receive reports of unsheltered residents throughout the city. Certainly on state properties, as another problematic area. McKay Park has been a frequent park. Our parks in the north part of the city have been reported as being homes for our unsheltered residents. So it's really throughout the city. Woodmansee, another park where we've received frequent reports of unsheltered individuals in the park.
Okay. Thank you. Councilor Lewis.
Yeah, Mr. Powers, I'd like to address something that Mr. Poole mentioned, and I'll put it this way. I see somebody steal my bike and go into Cascade Gateway Park, and I continue to see them with my bicycle. If I call the police, are you going to say that you're not going to go in and get my bike back?
No, we would not say that.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Bobby Stark.
Mr. Mayor, I believe guest counselor Stapleton had a comment.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Virginia. What do you got?
Thank you. I just had a quick question for Mr. Powers. Can you explain to me, and this might be just because I'm new here, but could you explain to me the cost or the difference between organized camping and what we have going on now? Because I know right now we have a cost, but what is the difference between what we're paying now for and what it's costing us now compared to what like an organized camping that maybe they have set up in other cities? Like what is that difference?
Certainly I can attempt with help from Gretchen Bennett to answer that question this evening, or I can provide a more complete report and provide that for council for your next meeting. Perhaps Gretchen, you could summarize some of the issues involved with a managed campsite and the work that is underway trying to add additional shelter capacity, managed shelter capacity.
Absolutely. Thank you. And thank you, Councilor-elect Stapleton, for the question. At maybe one end of the continuum, as you described, there are some costs associated with camping at Cascades Gateway and Wallace Marine Park that would include the cash for trash, garbage incentive, the broader removal of garbage and waste, porta potty management, the enforcement that we're able to do, et cetera. There are locations, as you described, that are what you might call a managed camp area where staffing is included in those locations. And there are additional costs that are associated with the staff support to locations. I've seen estimates that, without having the papers in front of me, estimates in general might be about $250,000 for 20 people for a 6-month period. I've also seen estimates of $1 million a year for, I think, 30 people for 1 year, but that's off the top of my head. So that's always dangerous to do off the top of your head without seeing those in front of me. But I have some estimates that I've been collecting around what a managed camp area would look like. So there's costs with this on-site staffing regularly present. The managed camp areas also screen in and screen out people who would be eligible to stay as well.
Okay. Thank you. And when we're looking at those costs, can we make sure to include the cost of repair to the parks as well, if we continue the way that we're going now, versus, if there is any kind of, I don't know, I guess that's what I want to say. If we can include the repairs to the parks in that cost, that would be really nice to see.
Thank you. Yes.
Okay. Anyone else? Bobby Stark.
Thank you. I also am a resident of Paradise Island. 50 years ago, my parents decided to downsize and move out here. And my husband and I decided to do the same thing 45 years later. So my husband and I have been here for 5 years, and it was like a 1950s community where you don't tell anybody, but you barely lock anything up. And we all felt so much a part of a very safe community. And I'm echoing other people who have spoken this evening. And like Councilor Nordyke said, she sees the protesters coming through her neighborhood and realizes that those should be down at the Capitol. And I don't have an answer for you on where our homeless should be. Maybe in smaller communities that are managed so people know who is there and what their situations are and what their belongings are and are not. If they cover things up, from what I understand, the police will not go and uncover anything to look for the things that have been stolen from Paradise. We have been broken into. My car, our shop area, my back porch. They were on my back porch and turned off all my security lights so that they could take the things they wanted. And that happened to neighbors on down from us over and over. I've heard the gunfire. I've seen fires in my walks in the evening. I've seen fires down in that area in the summer when it was so dry. We see people we are not used to seeing. We know they're walking through. We watched some people one day pointing to this and that and really looking like they were assessing what they could come back and steal. It's what it felt like. But I really would like the safety and security to come back to my neighborhood. And I care for those people. I want them to have the best care that they can have. But I don't know why it is at the cost of our safety and our security. Just recently, we had some things taken from our yard that we had at 3 different residences. We've had those things for over 40 years, and they are now gone and cannot be replaced. So I'm echoing what Corey has said. I watch him work tirelessly to try to come up with ideas to help you help these people. And he is not very well listened to, and he should be, because he works very hard at it. I echo what Kathy has said. She's right down there on the end, right next to this community, and she knows what she's talking about. So
thank you, Bobby.
We're asking for. Thank you.
Thank you. Dave Gould.
Can you see me?
Yep.
Okay. I'm Dave Gould. I'm a Salemite. I got married in 1961. I started with the Marion County Juvenile Department. A few years ago, my kids have graduated from schools here in Salem. Long story short, we're in Paradise Island now. We've been there for 5 or 6 years, so have a little bit of history of what's been happening to us, because we were bordering on Mill Creek and could see fights and things happening over in the encampments on the other side. So what I saw, the Parks Department put an expensive gate in there and said they'd lock it at 10 o'clock at night. And it was truly a city park, and people could not camp in there. So anyway, that did not last long. They locked the park. Now it's unlocked. And I will say this, I lived in Seattle 8 years. And in this neighborhood in West Seattle, there was a very small church, had about 30 members. And it just so happened in Seattle, they had self-governing homeless shelters. I don't know how many there were, but I can tell you this, that church of 30 members took 20 men in at night, 7 at night, they had to be in, 7 in the morning, they had to be out. And the neighborhood was quite concerned about this. But as it turned out, the fiercest critic of this program ended up calling them her boys. Now the church, they gave their time and their effort. It was not a lot of money that way. And the neighborhood gave money for food for them. So I saw that as a very positive thing up there that they were willing to do. My friends talked down about the homeless, and unfortunately, I've done the same thing myself. So I decided to go over to the park this afternoon and talk to some of them. I've worked with the gamut in the way of the criminal community. And I can tell you there are really nice people in there that are just kind of trapped in there that need help and come up alongside them. And I saw one young fella, he had a knife that was this long, laying right beside him while I was talking to him.
Dave, I'm sorry, your time's up.
Okay, I hope you heard me.
We did, thank you. Ralph Morgan.
Okay. Good evening. I'm not going to probably take 3 minutes because everything I would want to say, everybody else here has said, and you have important things to do too. I don't know that they're any more important than this, but I've only been here, excuse me, about 1.25 years. I've spent a lot of money on the place, my own place and my wife's place. We were here about 2 weeks and had the bike stolen twice. We've had garbage dumped onto the house next to us, which is probably one of the prettiest houses here. People's clothing and garbage. I went out to the garbage on Saturday to dump something in there, and somebody had put nasty clothes and a bottle of some liquid in my garbage can. I will not put up with it. If I catch somebody there, they're in deep, deep trouble. I'll close with this. To Councilor Anderson and Nordyke, if they decided to put these people in another park, like Bush Pasture Park, you would have absolutely had a fit. That's about all I got to say.
Thank you, Mr. Morgan. Okay, that is everyone who has signed up to testify. So I don't see any other business. We're adjourned.